Alright, good evening folks, it's Enforcer Matt and welcome back to another short war video, and today we have very big news coming out of the EU, Ukraine, Russia, and the Middle East. And specifically this morning, we are hearing that Denmark has confirmed that they were attacked by unknown drones last night that breached their airspace near Copenhagen airport for several hours. Meanwhile, investigators say the drones were likely Russian in origin and launched from ghost ships transiting near the coast, as we've also gotten more details that Norway and Sweden were breached in a very similar way around the exact same time. We also have news of major explosions happening in Iran, specifically near the capital city of Tehran late last night as well, as a ship getting attacked off the coast of Yemen. And we also have news that it appears there's a new large-scale military buildup on the Thai-Cambodia border, as experts fear the war is about to restart. So very big news happening around the world again today, and let's jump right into our first article, which goes to World Source News 24/7. And this right now is our biggest story of the day. Last night, y'all might have seen on our Twitter page that there was a frenzy last night about a major drone incursion into Denmark, specifically near the Copenhagen airport. And right here you can see there was the massive police presence that was at this airport last night, and you can see all the police cars there on the airport perimeter, and also you can see some more of them right here as well. And also in our third image, you can see there is a large police presence out here at the Copenhagen airport, and this was because there were drone sightings in the area causing the airport to shut down. And at the time, nobody was really sure what was happening here, but this was a very big event happening in Denmark, and of course it was something the police had to go out and investigate. And we've learned some more details today exactly what occurred at the airport. And moving into our next post here, this one goes to Ocean Defender. And before we get to exactly what occurred to cause the shutdown, we did see that 50 flights have been canceled so far last night, and 50 flights have been diverted away from Copenhagen airport in Denmark amidst the ongoing incident involving multiple drones operating in the airspace over Copenhagen. So it was a very large event last night. They were diverting flights everywhere away from Denmark, and also later on it became Norway as well was directing flights away from Oslo after they also saw drones around their airspace as well. So a very similar event happening in multiple different NATO countries that we were seeing last night, and a major event with redirecting flights away from these airports. So a very big diversion. But also moving into our next post here, this one goes to Insider Paper, and we actually have a video right here showing one of the unidentified drones flying over Copenhagen airport in Denmark. And it's very dark, you can barely see anything, but it is showing us at least the outline of whatever this drone was flying over the airport. And we were told there were multiples of these drones right here, not just one. There was actually several of them that were flying over. But let's take a look at the video and see what we can spot from it. Once again, it's hard to see, but let's take a look. Alright, so right there you can see there appears to be something in the distance right there. It does appear to have navigational lights on it. It looks like it's flying right over the airport very low. And here it is actually coming in the direction of the filmer. And it does appear to have green navigational lights on it. It also appears to have a blinking red light as well. But right here, I'm going to pause it for a second. There you can see there appears to be outlines of wings right here, at least based on what I'm seeing. And we're going to look at this a little bit closer in just a second in an image analysis. But you can see there appears to be a navigational light on the side left wing. And there also appears to be reflections of lights, or maybe direct lights themselves, on the right side as well. So there appears to be wings on this craft right here. But moving the video forward a little bit more, you can see there it is flying on over. It appears to be going rather slow, and it appears to have a pretty large wingspan on it based on what I'm seeing. So very interesting in that footage right there. Once again, I wish it was a little bit clearer that we could see in the video, but that's the best one we have at the moment. But with that, folks, we're moving on to our next article here, and this one goes to us on Twitter at @IsTheEnforcer. And last night when this was occurring, I actually ran an image analysis on this screenshot here from the video to see exactly what we were looking at, and here is what we got. You can see there is the original image on the left, and right here in the middle is an enhanced bright plus contrast image, and you can kind of get a gist of exactly what we're looking at a little bit clearer here. And you can actually see the lights appearing to be on the wings of this aircraft, if that's what this is, right there in that middle image. And also there's a grayscale one over here, so that's a little bit better of a resolution right there. You can kind of see what's happening a little bit better, but not by much. But we do have one more image analysis in our next one here, and we can see there are 3 different new versions right here in this lineup. So taking an up close view of these 2 images right here, you can actually see on the image on the left with the adaptive threshold, there appears to be an outline of a fixed wing aircraft. You can kind of loosely see it based on the mapping here in the image. But over here on the right, on the canny edges images right here that sort of mapped out the leading edges, you can see right there, there appears to be a leading edge on the left and right, and also there appears to be a fuselage right in the center, which would seem to indicate this is a fixed wing drone of some sort based on the very, very blurry images that we got from the video that we took screenshots of. So not conclusive conclusive, but once again, it does give you an idea. This most likely was a fixed-wing drone, and in my opinion, in the original video, it looked like the wings might have been angled up slightly, so I'm not really sure if this matches the profile of any known Russian drone that we're aware of at the moment, so I'm not really sure where this drone came from or where it originated from, because it really doesn't match up with anything we've seen previously, so kind of interesting to see that. But with that, folks, it's now time to move on to our next news article here, and this one goes to EnforcerNews, and also while the situation was happening in Denmark with Copenhagen Airport, we also heard of drones in the vicinity of the Oslo Airport in Norway at the exact same time, and we had heard from the officials there that in total there are 2 to 3 possible drone sightings, but those had not been verified at the time. But the one thing that was verified though is apparently there were no flights arriving at Oslo Airport until Tuesday morning, said the communications manager at Oslo Airport speaking to a TV network. So it looks like there was an airspace closure at this airport in Oslo, which is in Norway, in addition to Copenhagen Airport in Denmark being closed as well. So that is very telling. At the exact same time, very similar instances happening in 2 different NATO countries, and I think that's very, very telling. So very big news on that. But moving into our next post here, they were not the only countries affected. We also heard that Sweden announced today, this morning, that it's also investigating a suspicious drone sighting over Malmo and Lund last night. So you can see on the map right here, there's Copenhagen right to the left, and we're seeing that Malmo and Lund in Sweden were likely affected as well by these drone incursions. So it seems to be in a very tight little area right there where these all occurred at the same time. So that seems to be connected in my personal opinion, but of course we're waiting on more details from that investigation before we make any concrete conclusions. So that is very interesting to see as well. But moving into our next post here, this one is going to go to EnforcerNews, and we got a bombshell statement this morning from Denmark's Prime Minister about this drone incursion over Copenhagen Airport. And according to the Prime Minister, they say what we saw last night is the most serious assault on Danish critical infrastructure to date, and so far the authorities are now calling this an attack on Denmark. So that is a very big shift in language right there. Last night we had heard from the Copenhagen police. They said that a capable actor was behind these drone incursions, but they really weren't calling it an attack just yet. So now we're hearing the Danish officials calling this a direct attack, and they're saying the drones came from very far away and from different directions and basically converged on the location of the Copenhagen airport. So it appears to be the working hypothesis right now is the drones may have arrived from a ghost ship on the coast, but right now nothing is concrete and they're still conducting an investigation. But also the Danish are not the only ones calling this an attack, and moving into our next post here, which also goes to Fitux, we heard a statement from Volodymyr Zelensky from Ukraine, and he said special attention was given to Russia's violations of the airspace of NATO member countries, particularly on September 22nd in Copenhagen. So it looks like Zelensky's alleging this was an attack as well, and he's pinning the blame on the Russians. And honestly, I would say that it likely is the Russians. It's happening right very close to Russian territory. Of course, Kaliningrad's right there, and of course they do run ghost ships through the area of the sea near these countries. So it's very possible that it was Russia, but right now there's no concrete evidence, but I think everybody's kind of concluding at this point it most likely was Russia, considering the most recent violations of Polish airspace and also other Baltic state airspace as well. So it's not too far-fetched to say that. But also moving into our next post here, this one goes to Fitux Network yet again, and we've also heard the EU Commission says the drone incidents point in the direction of Russia as well. So once again, everybody's sort of pointing at Putin right now, and Putin, of course, is denying it. That's the typical Russian line. They're saying it's all a bunch of conspiracies that Europe is putting forward, but it's really not conspiracies though, because they just attacked Poland the other day, so to pretend like Russia wouldn't do something like this is a bit of a misnomer to say the least. So it looks like this is likely the case, but right now nothing is concrete like I mentioned, but it looks like Russia is the prime suspect, at least right now, and it's either launched from Kaliningrad toward Europe or it was launched from ghost ships. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Visegrad 24, and this kind of encourages the idea that maybe it was a ghost ship that launched these drones toward these countries. Because we can see right here in the post that Danish State TV is reporting that 3 vessels are suspected of having launched the large drone that shut down Kastrup Airport in Copenhagen for hours last night, forcing over 150 flights to be canceled or diverted. And we're not going to name off the ships right now because of course it's just allegations, so we'll leave that up to y'all to look at it, but there were some ships here that were in the vicinity of Copenhagen that could have launched these drones straight from the deck of their ship. But right now, like I mentioned, I want to emphasize this, nothing is concrete right now. It's all allegations. We're waiting to see if this is actually what occurred, because it could have been launched from Kaliningrad. That's another option. Kaliningrad's not too far away, or it could have been from a Russian ghost ship. Right now it's not very clear, but the one thing that does seem to be clear though is Denmark and these other countries are calling this an attack. So it does appear to have an element of intent behind it, and it wasn't just a mere accident, and it wasn't some mysterious ghost craft flying around the sky. So it does appear there was intent. But moving on from that post right there, and moving on to our next post, this one's going to go to World Source News 24/7, and it's now time to jump away from our news about the incursion into European airspace and move into news out of Iran and the Middle East right now, because there's some big things happening right now inside of Iran, and we are seeing footage of air defenses active over Lavzan, Tehran, which is one of the higher end neighborhoods in the capital city of Iran. So let's take a listen and hear what's going on. It looks like Tehran is once again being hit by something, or maybe there's some type of explosions happening from air defense. So let's take a look. So right there you can hear some explosions happening in the background. You can hear some more right there as well. And that does sound like air defense, most likely. I'm going to go ahead and mute that, by the way, but it does sound like air defense. So it's unclear if the Iranians are just panicking, because they did this before and it turned out to be a nothing burger. It turned out they were panicking because they were scared the Israelis were attacking them. But this could be a legit attack. We're not really sure just yet. And there were other areas of Iran where explosions were reported simultaneously, but we really don't have any concrete video evidence of that right now. So right now we're kind of waiting on more confirmation of that. But we do see in Tehran, at least in the capital city, there was air defense fire taking place late last night. So we're waiting on more information about that whole incident over Iran. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Mensch Osent, and we've also heard that a vessel was targeted by a projectile in the Gulf of Aden last night as well, and the UK MTO claims the drone and missile splashed in the vicinity of the ship. And right here you can see there is the location right there in red in which this attack allegedly occurred, and it apparently seems like the ship was not hit directly, but instead the projectile landed near it. So not a direct hit, but it is a suspected attempted attack by the Yemeni rebels inside of that country right now. So a very big incident potentially happening right there, and it could be a return to form for the Yemeni rebels with attacking ships transiting through the strait and also near their coastline. So we're waiting to hear on that story as well, some more confirmation. But moving into our next one here, this one goes to Conflict Radar yet again. And not only is it getting spicy in Europe and the Middle East, but also it is getting spicy in another place as well. Y'all might remember this. The Thai-Cambodia situation, which we covered a couple of months back, is apparently heating back up extremely rapidly. We're seeing large-scale Thai military buildups along the Thailand-Cambodia border, and Thailand says 4 Cambodian soldiers crossed the tactical barbed wire fence, which just happens to be almost similar to what happened last time to cause the war to spark off the last time we reported on it. So we do have a video here showing the large-scale military buildups, so let's take a look and see what we have. So right here you can see there is clearly tanks in the back of trucks moving into position here on the Thailand side, I believe. And of course, Thailand is alleging that the Cambodians crossed into their border. And right here you see there appears to be a long convoy of these trucks carrying tanks. And this is a build-up to a potential restarting of the war. And once again, there was a ceasefire in place, I believe. It's hard to keep that straight at this point. But there was allegedly a ceasefire in effect. So it looks like that ceasefire could be broken in addition to the other ones around the world, like for example, India and Pakistan, very soon, sort of indicating that these ceasefires really don't hold up that well unless you address the root cause of the conflict, which has not been addressed in Thailand and Cambodia. So we do see that here, and once again, very large military deployments. Well, with that, it's now time to move on to our next article and move away from the Thailand-Cambodia situation and move into our news coming out of Ukraine and Russia, because we do have some big news coming out of there as well. And today we're hearing that apparently the 10th blackout has occurred at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, according to the Ministry of Energy, and it's reported that the only power transmission line through which the Zaporizhzhia NPP received power was the Ukrainian power system, and apparently it was disconnected, and the ZNPP switched to powering its own needs from diesel generators, and this is a significant violation of the conditions of normal operation at the plant. So under the Russians' management, this plant right here has become a safety nightmare, and as you can see, here's the actual Zaporizhzhia plant itself that you can see right here in the picture. And obviously the Russians don't have a very good track record running nuclear power plants, and this is no exception whatsoever right here, and it looks like there's once again a 10th blackout occurring here at this facility. So honestly, we really can't emphasize enough how prudent it is for this power plant to go back into the hands of the Ukrainians. The Russians are clearly not capable of running it safely, and obviously it's not theirs to begin with. So I believe there's been nuclear watchdogs saying that this should be immediately returned to Ukraine for safety reasons, but I doubt the Russians are going to do that. So hopefully nothing crazy happens with this right here, but of course the Russians having their really bad track record with nuclear plants, I'm really not having much hope with this right now. So hopefully it stays good, but there's no telling right now. But moving into our next post here, this one goes to Spravdi Stratcom Center. And speaking of energy, there is no energy right now outside of Russia. They are having a really tough time right now as the fuel crisis is spreading across the entire Russian country. And you can see right here, there's apparently no gas of certain octane levels right here. As you can see on one board, there's no octane here of certain levels, actually of any level at this gas station. And it's just continuing for literally all types of gas stations. You're seeing here all these different gas stations having fuel shortages. And this is becoming extremely common across the Russian Federation into the weeks that we're seeing right now. So this is becoming a very big issue, and the Russians have no clear plan in sight to end this whole situation, this gas crisis. So I think that might be why we're seeing them lash out against NATO and acting really stupid with that, is because they are having some major domestic crises back at home, and they really don't have a way to fix it. So I think that's why you're seeing desperation on the part of the Russians with their sudden attacks on Poland and NATO that we're currently seeing today. But also, if you want to hear about real desperation, moving into our next post here, this one goes to Geo Insider, and we're now hearing that Russia's SVR intelligence service is claiming that NATO wants to occupy Moldova and deploy troops via Odessa, which is a narrative echoing recent lines from Russian propagandists. And of course, this is scaremongering, everybody knows that. And Transnistria has no real army, and Moldova doesn't really have an army either, according to Geo Insider. And NATO trainings, especially with Romania, are routine, and what is common is painted as uncommon, is a classic pre-election tactic to accuse others of what you're planning yourself. So once again, it appears that Russia is setting up multiple different possible false flag events where they could claim that NATO's aggressing on their country and then launch an invasion or an attack on perhaps Moldova or some type of other territory that is Western aligned. So we're hearing that yet again from the Russians, and this is more proof of it. So between all the attacks on NATO countries and also this false flag attempt right here by the Russians, or at least trying to set up the narrative for a false flag attempt, I would say that it looks like Russia has decided the best way forward, like also we've heard from other analysts, is they are going to escalate to the maximum in the hopes that NATO backs down and the hope that NATO actually stops supporting Ukraine, so that way Russia doesn't collapse entirely because they're failing inside of Ukraine to win that war. So I think the Russians are escalating to de-escalate, as the old saying goes for the Russians, but I think this is not going to go very well for them because NATO is getting very tired of being attacked by Russia, and we're already hearing that Poland wants to shoot down drones in their territory, and these other countries are talking about that as well. So I don't think NATO's going to put up with this for much longer. I think the Russians are going to find that strategy actually backfires on them if NATO does keep with this very strong approach that they're talking about right now. So I doubt it's going to go well for Russia, but let me know down in the comments below what you think about that. Do you think NATO is going to back down, or do you think that Russia is going to find themselves in a position where this whole thing backfires on them? Let me know down below. Well, with that, folks, that's actually our last post of the video. So of course, we have a lot of big breaking news coming out today, and before you go, folks, before you leave the video, do me a favor and please smack that like button to let us know you enjoyed the content and found it informative. And also, if you're new to our channel, by the way, make sure you hit that subscribe button to get notified of our daily uploads and also our live streams as well, where we'll keep you up to date in real time about what's happening around the world. And of course, when something major does happen, we usually run an emergency live stream on it to give you live coverage. That way the mainstream media who's not covering it, that way we kind of cover that blind spot. So be sure to subscribe to the channel as well for more daily breaking war news updates. And also, if you want to support our work, you can do so on our Patreon page, and the link is in the description below for our Patreon, where you can go over there and sign up for a monthly membership, and it could be as little as $5 or $10 a month. Whatever amount helps the channel tremendously, and we do appreciate our Patreon supporters very, very much for helping to keep the entire channel running. And with that, folks, we'll see you all tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern for our next nightly war news stream, and with that, bye-bye for now.